Harry's hair loss takes a dramatic and shocking turn. Birmingham 2027 will be the last Invictus.
The Invictus Games is ignored when it's not the Meghan show. So it's quite interesting.
Tom Bower, in his recent book Betrayal, alleged that Invictus funds were directed towards private jets, five-star hotels, and transportation for Harry and Meghan.
Prince Harry may be staring at the one crisis he cannot simply walk away from. Not another Hollywood snub, not another ugly headline, not another royal family feud. This time, the trouble is circling the one project he still needs more than anything else, the Invictus Games.
What more will she do to get... And what more can Harry do, because he's down now to one charity. That's it now, once every 2 years.
And the most brutal part? The very Sussex brand Harry and Meghan spent years building may now be making the problem worse. Is 2027 the last Invictus? Let's find out. Firstly, the numbers alone are enough to make this uncomfortable.
When it comes to Invictus's problems, Harry is at the heart of that. You know, Harry made Invictus, and somehow he's the guy that's breaking it.
Birmingham 2027 has major public money behind it, but the private fundraising picture being discussed is far less impressive. Around £4 million in sponsorship has been raised against a far bigger overall funding need.
He did come. The summer part of the reason, one of the biggest reasons, was to help raise money for Invictus. As we all know, £29 million was given by the government. He is supposed to match or exceed that. He, again, as we all know, $4 million has been raised, and that trip to England was not successful. He did not reel in a major sponsor like Boeing. He did not really get any more money than he already had. In fact, it was just a disaster on every level except for the personal level.
Harry already made a major trip to Britain with fundraising high on the agenda, and the result was hardly the giant corporate breakthrough he needed. No huge new sponsor suddenly rode in to save the day. No flood of fresh private money changed the picture, and now Harry is expected back again in September, once more trying to drum up cash for the project that has become almost impossible to separate from his own name.
He needs Daddy to be there to raise money and to say the king will be there, so then people will open up some wallets.
Think about how extraordinary that is. Invictus was supposed to be Harry's safest ground. This was the project nobody could take away from him. The royal family could move on. Hollywood could lose interest. Business deals could end. Friendships could cool. Other charities could become complicated. But Invictus was different. Invictus was the thing Harry could point to and say, "This is mine. This works. This matters. This is the proof that I still have a serious role in the world."
But of course, he's trying to leverage the Invictus Games, which the government has given money to, because after all, it's a very worthwhile cause for injured servicemen, with his own return with Meghan, who will use it to promote herself. So I don't believe the royal household, let alone the government, is going to give a free pass at public expense to Meghan to parade her clothes so she can sell them online.
And now even that is under pressure. The nightmare is not simply that Invictus needs money. Big international events always need money. The nightmare is the growing question over whether Harry himself is helping the fundraising effort or hurting it. That is a much more dangerous problem, because you cannot fix it with another speech, another photo call, another glossy arrival, or another carefully staged moment with Meghan.
They start off Invictus with a hugely popular pop show.
Which is expensive, by the way.
Well, it was Cape Perry.
Yeah.
I mean, it was vast.
Yeah.
But they got a lot of money because the auditorium, the stadium was full for her. And of course, Harry gets up and Meghan immediately gets up and gives him a kiss in front of the cameras because it's Meghan's show. What is Meghan going to do? Well, on that occasion, they went up then to Whistler, and she then disappeared because she had a crisis over her copyright of her products.
American Riviera Orchard.
Exactly. And nobody covered the games anymore.
Oh.
It was all over.
Right.
Because people only came, the media, to see how Meghan...
She must love that power, Tom.
She loved milking it.
Before we continue, one quick thing. One thing I've realized is that most families don't have their important information organized in one place. That's exactly why I recommend the Family Vault, a simple printable and fillable organizer where you can keep everything from important documents and insurance to medical information, passwords. You'll find the link in the description, or you can simply scan the QR code on your screen. Now let's get back to today's story.
If donors are beginning to look at the Sussex name and hesitate, Harry has a problem no amount of celebrity can easily solve. And this is where Meghan becomes impossible to ignore.
It isn't what it seems.
Right.
But what it is was Meghan's show.
Ugh.
For years, Invictus gave Harry and Meghan one of their biggest international stages. Cameras followed them, their entrances became headlines, their affection became part of the coverage. Meghan's outfits, speeches, appearances, and every tiny reaction could dominate attention that was supposed to be focused on wounded veterans. That tension has now become part of the crisis itself.
Breaking today, Invictus Games organizers delighted that one Meghan Markle didn't show up for the big one-year countdown in Birmingham.
When Meghan missed the Birmingham one-year countdown event, the reaction behind the scenes was described not as panic, but relief. The day was said to be smoother, the atmosphere was lighter. Harry alone was described as easier to manage, more flexible, and less complicated. Without Meghan, the focus could stay on the veterans instead of turning into another Sussex media circus.
The whole atmosphere feels lighter when it's just Harry. By contrast, another insider says Meghan's appearances often require, this is an understatement, far more coordination. With Harry on his own, everything is refreshingly straightforward. The team can focus on delivering a great event instead of managing endless logistics and drama.
That should have been a win for Harry. Instead, it exposed an even bigger problem. Because without Meghan, the event may be calmer. But Harry on his own no longer guarantees the huge global attention he once did. That leaves Invictus trapped between two bad options. Bring Meghan and risk the entire event becoming another Meghan show. Leave Meghan home and suddenly the cameras may not care nearly as much.
I thought that you would want a little bit more stardust than Prince Harry and his weird PDA with Alison Hammond, but no. There is a real desire within the Invictus Games to move the sideshow away from it becoming the Markle Games.
The couple spent years making themselves the story, and now Invictus appears to be discovering how difficult it is to separate the cause from the celebrity machine wrapped around it. That is the brutal contradiction at the heart of this. Meghan may create more noise, more logistics, and more drama. Yet the Sussex machine also trained the public to watch Invictus through the Harry and Meghan lens.
She loves that.
And she,
part.
in constant posting of Instagram videos of her with soldiers, her with children.
Oh,
her with
but
her
there's the
family.
video of them in the car and like everybody's cheering them
Look,
on.
they get everyone to come out into the tunnel for them.
Oh,
Now organizers need money, credibility, and focus. Not another round of stories about who hugged whom, who walked the carpet, who got more applause, or whether Meghan turned a veterans event into her personal runway. And the financial questions are getting harder to ignore. The previous Vancouver and Whistler Games were reported to have cost about 63.2 million Canadian dollars for 543 competitors from 23 countries. That is a staggering figure.
Germany's Invictus-style competition costs about $200,000 and involves half as many participants.
At the same time, attention has been drawn to the Invictus Games Foundation's own accounts. Direct grants to veteran organizations fell sharply, while income increased. Cash reserves grew. Legal costs jumped. A new highly paid executive role appeared.
Crucially, that public money didn't flow directly to the games. It was routed through the Vancouver Whistler Games Corporation, which then paid a licensing fee to the Invictus Games Foundation, the British charity that owns and licenses the games brand. The amount of that licensing fee was oddly redacted. I sense a cover-up. The numbers, Paula reports, raised red flags.
None of that automatically proves wrongdoing, and the games themselves obviously cost money to run. But it creates exactly the kind of question a charity never wants hanging over it. Where is all this money going? And why does this operation cost so much? That question becomes even louder when Birmingham needs huge sums of public and private money. The UK authorities has committed tens of millions in public support, yet private sponsorship has looked far less impressive.
And the problem is that us here in the UK, us taxpayer fools, are committing funds to this. I can't believe this. The next Invictus Games are scheduled for Birmingham in 2027. The UK government has committed up to £26 million in public funds, despite the city effectively declaring bankruptcy in 2023.
Earlier information around the Birmingham Games pointed to only a small group of unnamed sponsors contributing roughly £4 million. Boeing, a huge name attached to previous games, reached the end of its sponsorship agreement and did not renew it for Birmingham. That matters because Harry does not merely need applause, he needs companies willing to put serious money on the table.
So now he's going back in September and is going to once again try to drum up some cash. It's also the reason why he did the big front page in the Mirror of let the world see us together, because he needs Daddy to be associated with Invictus kind of again.
And right now, that is exactly where the pressure is. Harry can fly into Britain, smile for cameras, talk passionately about veterans, and remind everyone that Invictus began as one of his great successes. But eventually, somebody has to sign the check. Somebody has to believe that attaching a major corporate name to this event is worth it. Somebody has to look at the Sussex headlines, the constant drama, the royal feuds, the public arguments, the celebrity chaos, and still say, yes, this is where we want our brand.
There is a growing view within Invictus that Harry is actually becoming a massive drag on the event, that they want another patron.
That is a very different job from simply being famous. It may also explain why the royal reconciliation story suddenly matters so much more. Harry does not only miss his family, he desperately needs the royal glow that once surrounded Invictus. When the games were closely connected to the royal world, there was built-in prestige. Kings, princes, military tradition, national ceremony, all of that made the project feel larger than Harry himself.
Since leaving the royal fold, the foundation has become a cash cow for Harry and Meghan, and no doubt some others who are involved. It's all bubbling to the surface.
Now he is trying to sell Invictus as a private citizen living in California while still using the Duke of Sussex title and still relying on the royal connection to create status. That is a difficult balancing act. Harry wants independence from the institution, yet Invictus benefits enormously when the institution appears anywhere near him. A visible connection to King Charles would instantly change the optics. Suddenly, donors are not just funding Harry's event. They are backing something that again feels connected to the crown.
It's very likely that Birmingham 2027 will be the last Invictus.
Wait. No, there's South Korea to the rescue. South Korea, not a part of the Commonwealth, as I don't think it is. I'm not aware of it.
Not last time I checked, no.
Thank you. South Korea has announced that they will do the game.
Britain and the military establishment. That is why Harry's return to the UK is not just a family story. It may also be a business and fundraising story. And imagine how that lands back in Montecito. For years, Harry and Meghan sold the idea that they did not need the royal machine. They were going to build something bigger in America. Hollywood, streaming, lifestyle brands, global philanthropy, that was the new world.
The Hollywood elite turned their backs on Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, he's obviously lost. He's obviously bored. He's obviously without a daily purpose.
But when Harry's most important surviving project needs serious money, where does he keep looking? Back toward Britain, back toward the royal glow, back toward the very institution the Sussex brand spent years fighting with. That is awkward enough. But Meghan's role makes it even messier. The Invictus problem is not simply that Meghan attends. It is that her presence can become the headline.
The organizers were delighted. He writes, Prince Harry arrived in Birmingham without Meghan Markle by his side, and insiders tell Naughty But Nice that behind the scenes, some Invictus Games organisers quietly welcomed the last-minute change. Meghan had been expected to attend the one-year countdown celebration, but pulled out just days before the event. Harry ultimately flew solo, and sources say his solo appearance made for a smoother, more relaxed day.
Organizers were said to appreciate the calmer atmosphere when she stayed away. Her appearances have been described as requiring more coordination, tighter schedules, extra security planning, and constant adjustments. And once Meghan is there, every story can become about Meghan. What she wore, where she stood, whether she spoke, whether she kissed Harry, whether she walked ahead of him, whether she was booed, cheered, ignored, or photographed.
And
it's
I
like,
think
you're
that's
not a hero, Meghan.
exactly. But she is going to try and do the same, of course, in Birmingham.
So
She
you do
needs
think
it.
she's coming? You do?
Well, I
think
think she desperately wants to come.
Yeah.
But they've set the bar at this protection thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to get it.
That is poison for an event fighting to convince donors that the veterans come first. But here is the cruel twist for Harry. He cannot simply blame Meghan and solve everything, because a separate warning has already emerged that Harry himself is becoming a drag on Invictus. There have been calls for a different patron. There are public petitions demanding that he step aside. And there are claims of frustration inside the wider Invictus operation from people who believe his personal reputation now makes fundraising more difficult.
I mean, there is public petitions out there saying, get Harry off the board, and it's got thousands and thousands of signatures. But again, it does not matter unless the board votes him out.
So this has moved beyond the old argument that Meghan is hijacking Harry's big project. The newer, more dangerous argument is that the couple's combined brand may now be the problem. That changes everything. Harry created Invictus. His personal story is tied to it. For years, the project was treated as the best evidence that behind all the chaos, there was still a serious Prince Harry capable of doing something meaningful. If Invictus begins to decide it needs less Sussex and more veterans, where does that leave him?
If we're looking for positives for Prince Harry, it's difficult, isn't it? He may be on the hook for 10, 15, $20 million of legal expenses for the Daily Mail. The other charitable stuff is not happening. Centre Barley, he's lost control of it. The Archwell Foundation has effectively been shuttered. All he's got is Invictus. And yet even that, based upon the journalism of yours that I've been reading, is slipping through his fingers.
And if the organization ever reaches the point where it believes Harry himself must be reduced, replaced, or moved aside to bring sponsors back, that would be an extraordinary humiliation, because Harry cannot easily walk away. Invictus is not one project among 10 thriving projects. It is the project. That is why every new funding problem hits differently. Harry needs Invictus almost as much as Invictus once needed Harry, possibly more.
It's a problem, but also let's not forget, Centabali is gone, but they're still suing him. So TikTok, when is that case coming up for defamation? And won't that be interesting to see if it settles or not? Also, he has Africa Parks. Let's not forget that, which he refuses to step down from.
If he loses that stage, what is the next major global institution with his name all over it? What is the next event that puts him in front of veterans, officials, international media, and officials? What is the next serious cause that can still give him the kind of status he once received automatically as a working royal? There is no obvious replacement. And that may be why the internal tension matters so much. Earlier turmoil around the organization included resignations and claims that some people who disagreed with Harry were pushed out or left.
Sometimes people are a little bit lazy. They hear things, they say, oh, Invictus Games, 4 Wounded Warriors, which sounds like the Wounded Warrior Games. And people think, oh, this must be great. And a lot of people are unclear how to read a tax return or to check stats. And so I think it was just very easy to say, oh, the Invictus Games, it's great. It does all this. And then, you start looking into it and you're like, hey, what the heck is going on here? Those 535 competitors had to pay their own way. They had to pay their own housing for the games. They had to pay for their own equipment.
There have also been claims that qualified people were reluctant to take Birmingham roles because of the reputation surrounding Invictus. At the same time, people still inside are trying to get Birmingham 2027 over the line. That creates a dangerous atmosphere. Keep everything together long enough to stage the games, then deal with the anger afterward. If that is really the mood, Birmingham is not the finish line. It is the pressure cooker.
Well, in that case, Harry's a very lucky guy, and the Invictus gravy train is going to continue because we cannot exaggerate this, Paula. He has to have Invictus because there is nothing else.
And Meghan cannot fix that by arriving in a perfect outfit with a perfect smile. In fact, she may make the optics worse. Imagine asking taxpayers and corporate donors for tens of millions while the public conversation is once again dominated by luxury travel, celebrity treatment, private jets, five-star hotels, or whether Harry and Meghan are using Invictus as their personal global tour. Even when those claims are disputed, the image itself becomes a fundraising problem. Donors do not like confusion.
Those veterans are total heroes. Heroes in their public service, risking their lives to stand up for Western freedoms. Heroes again in this amazing sporting endeavor. So we love the veterans, but Invictus itself now, it's just become quite a tainted brand. And I wonder whether Harry is the problem.
Obviously, Harry's the problem.
Corporate sponsors do not like endless controversy. They like clean stories, clear impact, and predictable headlines. The Sussexes are almost the opposite of predictable. One event becomes a feud. One friendship becomes a public mystery. One red carpet becomes a week of denials. One royal visit becomes another argument. And now Harry is asking major organizations to attach their money and reputation to the one project he absolutely cannot afford to lose.
While I completely understand that Meghan is a total nightmare to deal with, there was no excitement about these pictures. These pictures didn't make any front pages of the newspapers. They weren't being shown all over the websites around the world because Harry no longer has any glamour attached to him.
That is why the September return matters. Harry is not just going back to Britain for another ceremonial appearance. He needs momentum. He needs sponsors. He needs reassurance. He needs to prove that he can still open doors rather than close them. If he comes back again and the big money still does not appear, the question gets louder. What exactly is Harry bringing to Invictus now? Fame? Yes. Headlines? Absolutely. But are they the right headlines? Does he bring donors? Does he bring stability? Does he make corporations more comfortable or more nervous?
And is Invictus about to join the list of charities, including African Parks and Send to Bali, that actually will do far, far better with no dodgy involvement from the disgraceful Duke?
Does Meghan add glamour, or does she turn every event into another argument about Meghan? Those are brutal questions because they attack the very reason Harry and Meghan have remained central to the games. And there is another important detail. Invictus itself is not necessarily about to disappear. South Korea has already emerged as a future host, which means the games can continue beyond Birmingham.
South Korea loves a royal. Princess Anne went there recently and they loved her. And then, jumping on the royal bandwagon, they announced that they were going to do an Invictus game. So South Korea has laid down most likely tens of millions for the next Invictus Games, which is probably a shot through Australia's heart, since they thought that they would be getting it, or Nigeria. Nigeria always wanted it.
That may actually make Harry's position more uncomfortable, not less. If Invictus has a future, then the organization has to think long-term. It has to ask what kind of leadership, image, and funding model can survive for years. The real nightmare for Harry is not necessarily that Invictus dies. It is that Invictus survives and eventually decides it can survive better with less of him. That would be devastating. And for Meghan, it would remove one of the last giant stages where the Sussexes can still arrive with something close to royal-level attention.
There is something not sitting right with this charity. Charities that have something to hide should not be trusted, especially with so much NGO fraud being exposed in the last few years. And they are calling on Boeing and American Airlines to think twice before donating.
Invictus has given them international travel, huge photo opportunities, emotional speeches, and a ready-made reason to stand in front of cheering crowds. Strip away the Sussex spectacle and suddenly the couple loses far more than a weekend event. They lose a piece of the image they have been selling since leaving royal life. Harry and Meghan as global humanitarians with influence, access, and purpose. That is why this crisis is bigger than a sponsorship spreadsheet. It is about identity.
No Invictus, no Harry.
Unfortunately, we don't know how really it operates. It is kind of vague. There are documents that are redacted, and you're just going, what is going on? Why does it cost so much money?
Before we continue, I want to mention something really quick. Organizing your family's important information is one of those things most of us know we should do, but we keep putting it off. That's exactly why there's the Family Vault. It gives you one place to organize your important documents, insurance, medical information, passwords, and more, so everything is easy to find when it's needed. You'll find the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on your screen. That's all. Now let's get back to today's story.
Harry built so much of his post-royal credibility around Invictus. Meghan became woven into that image, and now the exact thing they use to prove their relevance is forcing uncomfortable questions about whether their relevance has become a liability. The veterans deserve better than to be dragged into a celebrity war. They are the reason Invictus exists, and they should remain the center of it. That is what makes this situation so serious. If sponsors, staff, taxpayers, and the public start believing the Sussex story is bigger than the veterans story, then Invictus has to make a choice about what it wants to be. A veterans organization with a famous patron? Or the Harry and Meghan show with veterans in the background? That choice may be coming faster than Harry expected.
Invictus is a problem because, like it was with Senta Bali, his personal brand and him and Meghan are impeding fundraising for Invictus.
For years, he could survive almost any criticism because Invictus remained his shield. Whenever everything else went wrong, he still had one success nobody could completely dismiss. But now that shield is cracking. The money questions are getting louder. The sponsor problem is harder to hide. The internal frustration has not vanished. Meghan's presence creates one set of problems. Her absence creates another, and Harry himself is increasingly being pulled into the center of the blame. This is his worst nightmare because there is nowhere easy to run. He cannot abandon Invictus without looking like he walked away from his last major cause. He cannot dominate it forever if his name makes fundraising harder.
Meghan is deliberately pushing Harry down, that she's kind of competing with her own husband and elevating herself by making him miserable.
He cannot fully separate Meghan from the brand without raising questions about their united front. And he cannot magically recreate the royal prestige he gave up unless the family he attacked decides to lend him some of that glow again. So, September could be far more important than another Harry photo opportunity. It could be a test of whether he still has the power to save the project that once saved his public image. And if the money does not come, if major sponsors remain cautious, if the pressure inside Invictus keeps building through Birmingham, then Harry may eventually face the question he has avoided for years. Did he build Invictus into something bigger than himself? Or did he make himself so central to Invictus that he became the thing holding it back? Because the most brutal ending to this story would not be Invictus collapsing. It would be Invictus deciding that the only way to thrive again is to leave the Sussex circus behind. And if that day comes, Harry and Meghan will not be able to blame Hollywood, the palace, the press, or anyone else for taking their stage away. The stage will still be there. The veterans will still be there. The games will still be there. The only thing missing might be them, and that is exactly why this crisis could become one of the most humiliating chapters of their post-royal life yet.